This is Plant-Based Briefing. Heat exhaustion, amputated fingers, crushed limbs, the hidden cost of American turkey. Part 1 by Grey Moran and Miriam at sentientmedia.org. And I'm Marian Erickson. This is the curated content plant-based podcast where I narrate a variety of articles on plant-based and vegan living with permission in about 10 minutes or less every weekday. And this article would have been longer than that, so it's a two-parter. I'll read part 1 today and then tune back in tomorrow for the second half. And now let's get to today's plant-based briefing. Heat exhaustion, amputated fingers, crushed limbs, the hidden cost of American turkey. Part 1 by Grey Moran and Miriam at sentientmedia.org. 3 charts reveal details of the 351 workplace injuries experienced by turkey industry workers in 2024, which include severed fingers, injured corneas, and musculoskeletal disorders. You likely haven't heard of the worker at a Prestige Foods plant in South Carolina who suffered a head injury after a pile of dead turkeys fell on him. Or the Butterball plant worker in Arkansas whose index finger was crushed while cleaning the gizzard peeler, a machine that separates a turkey's gizzard from the rest of its body. Then there's the farm worker who injured the cornea of his eye while wrangling turkeys at a farm owned by Select Genetics in Missouri. Just a few of the 351 injuries experienced by workers in the turkey production industry, as reported to the Occupational Safety and Health Administration in 2024. In a review of 2024 OSHA injury and illness data, Sentient identified 100 injuries that resulted from falls, 100 sprains and strains, 72 injuries involving cuts and lacerations, including amputated fingers and hands, 17 eye injuries, 35 crush injuries, and 27 other injuries and illnesses suffered by workers across every stage of turkey production, from the farm workers collecting turkey eggs at hatcheries to the line workers processing turkeys along a fast-paced conveyor belt. For a detailed explanation of how we analyzed OSHA's injury and illness data, please see our methodology guide linked here. This data offers far from a complete tally of turkey industry workplace injuries, given that not every injury is reported to OSHA, yet it does offer a glimpse into the human cost of turkey production. For pay of around $18 per hour, turkey industry workers in meatpacking plants, slaughterhouses, and hatcheries risk a minefield of potential injuries that can be debilitating and even fatal. In March, the Trump administration moved to increase the line speeds in processing plants, making it harder for workers to keep up as turkeys in various stages whiz along the assembly line, a decision that is expected to lead to an uptick in injuries in an already dangerous industry. There's a direct correlation with repetitive trauma injuries and the speed of the line, says Jose Rivero, a workers' compensation attorney who represents immigrant workers in Illinois, including those employed at poultry plants. That's been my experience. These injuries were spread across 50 different establishments owned by just 9 companies that produce turkey: Aviagen, Buckhead Meats, Butterball, Cargill, Farm Fresh Turkey Products, the owner of Plainville Farms, Jenny O Turkey Store, Prestige Foods of South Carolina, Select Genetics, and West Central Turkeys. These companies produce the vast majority of turkeys sold in the U.S., including the 46 million turkeys that are eaten on Thanksgiving Day every year. Along with injuries, this data encompasses illnesses likely contracted on the job. This includes an instance of avian influenza spreading to a farm worker who was tasked with killing a flock of turkeys exposed to the virus, a process known as depopulation, on a farm owned by Jenny O Turkey Store, one of the largest turkey producers in the world. Many of the reported injuries involved the hands, especially among workers using tools and machines in turkey processing plants. You see a lot of hand injuries because they're dealing with sharp-edged tools. There's a lot of cuts. There's a lot of amputations. There's a lot of injuries to the hands that can turn out to be very serious, says Rivero. The cold temperatures in meat processing plants can also lead to numbness in the hands, adds Rivero, contributing to the high number of hand injuries. Some workers also experienced the other end of temperature extremes. There were 3 reported incidents of heat exhaustion. One such incident involved a worker at a Butterball plant in the blood room, where slaughtered turkeys hang upside down by their necks, letting the blood drain. Your hands just freeze up. In Rivero's practice, the most common injuries among poultry workers arise from repetitive motions that can become debilitating over time. This was reflected in OSHA's data to a degree. There were a total of 30 injuries attributed to repetitive movements, including 4 instances of carpal tunnel syndrome. However, Rivero suspects that many of these repetitive injuries go unreported, given that it's not a single incident that is reportable to OSHA. Repetitive trauma just kind of develops over time, so it's not as clear-cut as perhaps a single trauma. In one incident at a poultry plant in Virginia owned by Cargill, a worker is reported to have developed de Quervain's tendinosynovitis, a painful swelling of the tendons on the wrist from repetitive motions. In another, a worker at a butterball processing plant in Arkansas developed carpal tunnel syndrome that progressed into a musculoskeletal disorder, according to the OSHA report, an indicator that the injury may have been left untreated, says Rivero. Repetitive motion injuries are often severe enough that the tension has to be relieved with either surgical repair, injections, or physical therapy, says Rivero. But if left untreated, you could develop a disability. You could develop contractures where your hand just freezes up and that's it. You're no longer able to use your hands. These types of repetitive injuries, likely to worsen with increased line speeds, can be prevented through 10-minute or 5-minute breaks just to give their extremities a rest, he says. You just listened to Heat Exhaustion, Amputated Fingers, Crushed Limbs, The Hidden Cost of American Turkey. Part 1 by Grey Moran and Miriam Quick at sentientmedia.org. And I'm your host, Marian Erickson. Tune in tomorrow for the second half of this episode, where you'll hear about other injuries at processing plants, including falls and eye injuries, injuries that the turkey catchers endure, and more. And you'll learn about the heightened pressure to not report injuries, and how the Trump administration's mass deportation agenda is placing additional pressure on immigrant workers to remain silent. And in the meantime, if you wanted to check out some related episodes, use the search field where you listen or go to plantbasedbriefing.com episodes and enter terms like turkeys, slaughterhouse workers, farm workers, and those will come up. So please share this episode with anyone who might benefit, and thanks for listening.